Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of She Coaches Coaches. I have a special guest for us today, and her name is Jennifer Dent Brown. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer. I'm going to start by reading her bio. She is a diet industry disruptor. She's a certified health and life coach and the host of the wildly popular podcast and founder of the weight loss process called Stop Dieting Forever. She is freeing women all over the world from their dependency on diets to lose weight for the last time. Join her free, it's F.R.E.E. email club called Forever Well for tips on how to stop dieting forever and improve your wellness. And we'll make sure to share how to get in touch with her later in the episode. But before we dive in, I just wanted to tell you a couple of little things about Jennifer. So she is my weight loss coach, my health coach, and we have been kind of loosely, because I have fallen off the bandwagon, working together for quite a while. But here's what I really notice about her is that she is passionate about helping her clients. And it's not about the pounds on the scale. It's about having this life that is your life, your most powerful life, the life that is the healthiest life for you. And that's why I invited her to come on this show, is because I've been watching her for a couple of years and I'm like, this woman, you guys need to hear this woman. So inviting you on. Jennifer, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Wow. Why, thank you so much for that introduction, Candy. I should take you everywhere I go to introduce me before I have to speak. That's so good. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. It is definitely a passion to help women who I see struggling, but I'm like, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. And I get it. And then I forget, and then I get it again. And then no matter what, you're still there, right? Like you're still patiently waiting for me to jump on the bus again, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share your story. Like, how did you come to this point in your life as the Stop Dieting Forever coach?
Well, let's see. The short story is I was fat. At one point, I had a weight problem. And interestingly enough, I didn't have a weight problem as a kid. I didn't start gaining weight until I went to college. So just like that freshman 15 inactivity, junk food, drinking, the whole college experience. And just being very, I guess, ignorant about nutrition and exercise and those things, I just kept gaining weight. The other thing that happened when I went to college is, emotional eating became a thing. But at the time, I didn't know that's what it was. But it was something that really made who I was at that time, that transitional time in my life, going from a teenager to a young adult, and eventually into the job market. So my weight ballooned pretty much all through college, all through graduate school. Then I got a job as a management consultant where I was traveling 90% of the time. So I was basically living out of a suitcase, working really long hours in corporate. Every meal is on an Amex credit card for the company with with the team dinners and all the things. It was a very stressful job. And so at the time, I didn't know I was an emotional eater. So what does one do when you just have free reign of food all the time? You just eat. But the whole time I was trying to lose weight desperately. It was like always like, oh, I gotta like try this thing, try this diet, try this diet, try this diet. And it was this ridiculous cycle of find a diet, get all excited, be hyper vigilant, hyper focused on it for like 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month. I would lose a little bit of weight and then I would go back to my old eating habits and, you know, the cycle continues. And I would gain the weight back and go find something else. So this eventually stopped when I discovered a health coach. And at that time, I had no idea what coaching was. I'd never heard of the coaching industry, never worked with the health coach, but I had done every specific diet and training program and fitness program and specialty gym and had all the gadgets, took weight loss drugs, did all the things. And she told me that what she taught would work. And I didn't believe her. But I was like, I'm willing to give you $1,400 to find out. So I paid her for a 6-week program. And that was my first introduction into the mind body connection and how your lifestyle impacts your weight. And that was just like like a new world opened up for me. And so the 6 weeks were over in her program. And I was like, I need to know more. And I ended up enrolling in the same school that she went to become a coach, which is the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Studied that for a year, learned all these different modalities of holistic health. It's like I lost my word for a minute. And it just like, and they also teach you how to become a coach. So as I was working on myself and trying out these different things that I was learning to lose weight and fix my quote unquote fix my life, I started to lose weight. And so people were like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm a coach, right? It was kind of like this secret because I was still very much aligned as my professional job as a management consultant. And so that was in 2014, I started coaching. And so I've been coaching ever since.
Wow. And isn't that interesting? Like so often coaches start because they had an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you had, I'd say the word problem in air quotes. You had something that you wanted to be different. And then you found a solution. But through it all, you grew like crazy. And then it was like, oh, this is important. I could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was desperate, Candy. I was desperate to find a solution because literally I'd been in that cycle, that yo-yo cycle for decades. And I remember praying to God. I was like, God, if you just help me figure this out, like somehow, some way, I will help somebody else. Because here's the funny thing, in all of my interactions with all of these different diets, going to all these diet centers, being on all these weight loss forums, there are a lot of women out there who were struggling just like I was. And so I knew if I could figure it out that I would be able to help other people do the same. And I wasn't exactly sure what that looked like. But I became a coach. And so here we are.
Yeah. There's something about what you said about I was desperate. And I mean, I know that that's in relation to weight loss in your health, but I hear that a lot from people, especially people who become coaches, as they had something, they had this X thing going on in their life and it was painful. And then this place of divine intervention, right? Like, I want this help. If you help me get this help, I will make sure that I make the world a better place. I'll make sure that I have the impact, right? And so in that, sort of looking for that divine intervention, you make the promise and then you're the answer. to the other person who is desperate, who is wishing,
Mm-hmm.
wishing, and wishing. It's kind of cool.
It is very cool. But also, it's like once the business starts, like this is another opportunity for growth, right? So
Yes.
it's
More pain.
more pain, exactly, right? It's like if you're, well, I always say if you're not growing, then you're stagnant.
Yeah.
So having a business, I think, is the one thing that really pushes you out of your comfort zone in so many different ways at one time.
Yeah. And, and I say more pain with a giggle. And, you know, I would say that I don't quite mean that, but that's not true. It is uncomfortable and there
Mm-hmm.
is pain associated with that growth. And maybe it's time for us to stop thinking always that pain is a problem, right? Like pain could be a signal, pain could be an indicator, pain could be guidance. Maybe we could call it something a little bit different, but currently.
Contrast is what I have been recently calling it. I did not come up with that term. It's in a book by Neil Donald Walsh,
Mm-hmm.
and he calls it contrast. And contrast is
Conversations with
just
God.
that period before your breakthrough, before your next level. The problem is when you're experiencing the contrast and you don't recognize what it is, people freak out and you like tumble right back down the hill again and you're like, oh, it's not working, or this is so hard, or, nobody's clicking my likes and nobody's engaging with me. And so we get that, and then we get stuck there again versus seeing, oh, this really uncomfortable feeling that I am experiencing right now when I have to, for example, go live or like, put myself out on a podcast or commit to doing a podcast every single week, that uncomfortable feeling. And we're just like, I don't want to do it. It's just contrast.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
showing us the opposite side of what we actually really want.
Yeah, it's been years since I've read Neil Donald Walsh, and it's Conversations with God, right? That he's doing that. The other place that I've heard this term is I was just back listening to some of the old Abraham Hicks stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Abraham uses that word contrast as well.
Contrast. Mm-hmm.
Super interesting. Yeah, super interesting. Hmm. There was something that we talked about a little bit just before we hit record on this conversation. And it was this, how do you deal with fear? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, are we okay just to sort of move into that area, right? This
Mm-hmm.
place of when and it sort of fits with the idea of contrast, like sometimes contrast, we're faced with the fear of, well, I can handle where I'm at right now, but I feel this need to do something a little bit different. I feel this need to shift or to pivot or to evolve. But then fear kind of comes in to the play. Do you ever
Mm-hmm.
experience that?
Oh, every day, maybe. Like just a little bit. It's so interesting. We talked about fear coming up because I feel like every time I want to do something different or just announce something, like right now, I'm, organizing this challenge, in a community challenge that this idea that I came up with. I woke up at 2:30 this morning. Like I announced it yesterday, 2:30 a.m. I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, Jennifer, like, you don't know what, like, there's too much happening. Like, you don't have this, you don't have this. Your VA's on vacation. Like, how are you going to manage all of this stuff? And I'm doing it for free. Like, the fear comes from also OPT, other
Mm-hmm.
people's thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right? My version of what other people might be thinking about what I'm doing. And I'm like replaying that in my head, and it conjures up this very real feeling of fear, like feeling it all in your body, in my body, just the shallow breath, the rapid heart rate, the sense of worry, the heaviness, the regret, all of it just like cascading down at one time.
Yeah.
And these moments come in the middle of the night for me sometimes, but I've been here before. I've been here before, so I know how to talk to myself. I have the other part of my brain, my bratty brain. I call her Olga. And Olga, I was just like, it's okay. Like, we're going to be okay. Like, I'm not worried about what happened yesterday. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow or like what's going to happen 3 weeks down the line. Like, let's just focus on being right here, So I literally just like shifted my worrisome thoughts to feeling grounded in the bed, like feeling my sheets and like feeling the firmness of my mattress and feeling the air like on my face. And that like calmed Olga down for a minute. But one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I have come to realize is that these fearful moments will happen. Like we're human and we're supposed to have fearful moments. Like it's okay, it's not a problem. The problem comes when we allow ourselves to sit in the fear. Now I know. Oh,
Sorry,
go
I just
ahead.
want to
Mm-hmm.
interrupt you there because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just that we allow ourselves to sit in the fear, but we judge it. We say that
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong that I'm feeling afraid, or I shouldn't be feeling afraid, or how can I get out of feeling afraid? And in that judgment of the fear, we prolong it. I just want to also just there's something that you said that I think is really interesting and super powerful, and I want to focus on it for the listeners. So,
Mm-hmm.
listeners, did you hear Jennifer? She experiences fear all the time. It comes up. And for her, it sometimes shows up in the middle of the night. And notice the tool that she does. She got present with herself. She got centered in her body. She stayed in her body, noticed the feeling, the physical sensation of that emotion. And then she noticed the feeling of the sheets. She noticed how the bed is supporting her. And to bring herself fully present is really a wonderful way of managing that fear. So
Mm-hmm.
sorry for the interruption, but that
No,
was good.
that's,
I really want
yeah.
people to hear it.
This is something that I had to learn how to do because I think, Candy, when our paths first crossed and we started, because we met in a mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
like this was a tool I was not aware of. It's so interesting. I did join that mastermind because I felt like I needed to work on my emotions some more. Like I knew all the masculine stuff. I knew how to like do the launching. I know how to do ads. I know how to do like copy, all that stuff. I can do graphics and design, blah, blah, blah. But the emotional piece was the one thing I was like, oh, God, I don't want to work on.
I don't
I
want
don't
to,
want
but
to
I
work.
know I need to.
I know I needed to. It was like the last frontier. So I joined that mastermind very specifically to understand how my emotions were affecting my business, right? How my thinking was affecting my business. I was very adept and I understood it very well when it comes to food. And I don't know if you remember this, but our coach, she always, when she was like trying to coach me, she would always like flip it and put it into food terms. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That's my language. I understand
That's
that,
my
right?
language. Yeah. So I literally had to like create a new language on what my emotions were as they relate to my business and like have this brand new awareness of what was happening with me when it comes to the business.
Yeah. And so all of this are really great approaches to deal with discomfort and fear. And notice that because we're coaches, there's always, I guess we have a business and it is separate from ourselves. But for me, even though my business is separate from who I am, there is an element, there's always a bit of a spirit to it, right? There's always
Mm-hmm.
a spirit connection. And so by getting more in touch with the thought feeling combination, instead of just getting to be a really great executor, that allows the business to thrive. I don't know if that's as prevalent for people who have more logical businesses. Like being a coach is a little bit different than being, say, an OBM, an online business manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. What do you think about that? Like this thought feeling combination.
I think there is a thought feeling combination with any business. My husband's an entrepreneur too. He's a very logical business. He's in intellectual property and technology. And it's very like he doesn't understand all of my coaching, like my investments in coaching and my need to understand my brain and how it operates. Um, but from a spiritual perspective, we do have very similar conversations when it comes to thinking about our clients, how we want our clients to receive what we're offering, his products and services, my products and services. Um, and also understanding now that like connecting to that spirit source now, it's a trickle down effect, right? So if you don't do that, you don't spend that time. And I have been doing that way before him. He just got on the bandwagon, by the way. But he sees now, if you don't spend that time in the morning, your day can either go this way, it can go be great, or it could be not so great.
Yeah, it's like getting your business centered in the right
Mm-hmm.
spot instead of
Mm-hmm.
being blown about by whatever wind happens to be blowing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now where am I? I've always got a million questions in my head. Tell me, I think originally when I reached out to you to ask you to be on the show, I wanted to talk a little bit around the self-care piece, like the need for self-care, especially in entrepreneurs. And we didn't talk a lot about it sort of in the, pre-conversation, but it's something that sort of keeps coming up over and over. And
Mm-hmm.
as you were saying, like centering yourself and being aligned and on purpose in the morning is an essential part of your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a piece of self-care as well. Do you have any thoughts about this, like self-care, especially for newer business owners, to have a better business, to feel better in your business, all of the things?
Yeah, I think self care is essential, like you said. And there are different ways you can go about it. And there's different times that you do different types of self care depending on where you are. And I used to be very regimented with like the morning routine, like, okay, I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing this, and I'm going to spend 10 minutes journaling, and I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing this, and I'm going to do 30 minutes working out. And that was fine at the beginning of my journey, just to kind of like get my brain around like, oh, we need to separate and start the day in this way and do these things. But now it is very much, I have so many different types of self care that I do. I really am good at asking myself, what do I need right now?
Hmm. Hmm.
What do I need right now? My brain will be like, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Like the very masculine part of my brain will tell me I need to do this, this, and this. And then the other part of me is like that whisper of like, no, go read a book, or like go, sit down and journal about this, right? Or create a visual end scene for this. And it's gotten me, I mean, it's been a while to get me to that place, but I think it's really important for all entrepreneurs to have some type of, not just one, self care practice that they have tried and either like or they don't like. And so, inside the program, I talk about, I teach everybody should have a toolkit or tool belt of like stress busting activities, because we know the stress is coming. Like we absolutely know you're going to have at some point during the day, you're going to feel a little stressed. So you should have an arsenal of tools that you can use that work very well for you to bust that stress. It's the same thing with getting in alignment with the day and doing the self care.
Hmm. And interesting that there's sort of different types of self-care, and to get to the point where you can listen to both sides. You listen to that, do XYZ masculine side, it's one thing, and it's important. Like, it's not that that is not important, but then to also evolve to the point where you hear that quiet voices version. It's like, and also read a little bit of this, or and also pray a little bit, and also be quiet for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both of those qualities of self-care, for me, it was always easier to start with the, I journal, I do tapping, I do, meditation, I do, this sort of list of things. And then that allows me to evolve to the get the quiet message, do the quiet
Mm-hmm.
message too.
Mm-hmm.
So for new coaches or coaches who are just kind of feeling sort of stressed, this is a place for you to start. Start with that to-do list version of self-care. But give yourself a little extra time, right? Like a little bit of space, a little bit of grace, a little bit of quiet, and the
Yeah.
trust that you'll hear something,
I
right?
think for me, I love that candy, but I think for me, when I first started, it was like I needed to do it exactly right. Like, is this the recipe? Is this what I need to be doing every single day? And for a while, I mean, it worked for a while. Like, I would pull out my planner, my journal, and I would answer questions and I would do my self coaching. And then I would start work. And like you said, it helps you just to become aware of all of the non-revenue generating thoughts that one has during the day. And that was, really, really helpful. And it taught me that you really can rewire your brain. You really can set a new set of beliefs by just really being intentional about believing something on purpose versus just jumping into your to-do list and thinking subconsciously like nobody's going to respond to this and nobody's going to like me and
Yeah.
this is so hard.
And it shouldn't be so hard, and it should have happened faster already.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these little thoughts are what Jennifer is referring to as non-revenue generating thoughts. And they sound like those thoughts. And they also sound like, I'm not ready. I don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Not me. Who do I think I am? Oh, I think I should take another certification. Right? Like all those thoughts.
Yep. I don't know enough. Let me go study some more and hide out behind my coursework. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And stay busy, busy, busy. Yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So if you were making a recommendation to people who are just starting out on this journey, and the place that I'm curious mostly is newer coaches who want to maintain health, not letting their
Mm-hmm.
health slide. How would you suggest that they start on this?
Yeah. So that is part of your identity, right? So developing the identity of an entrepreneur who prioritizes their health, period. Otherwise, you can force yourself to do something. And then when you can't do it, then you make yourself feel badly like, oh my God, I haven't worked out for 2 weeks. But if you work on creating the mindset of the person who just does the thing, then it's not a big deal. So I always use the example when it comes to identity of like everybody, like you brush your teeth in the morning, right? You have the identity of a person who appreciates good oral health. And you don't have to tell yourself, okay, we have to brush our teeth right now. You don't have to like put your toothbrush out in the morning, like ahead of time as a reminder, or put a post-it note on the bathroom mirror thing to brush your teeth. You brush your teeth because you value the way that it feels. You like the way that you feel when your mouth is clean and your breath is fresh smelling, all the things. That is a habit. It is a system of beliefs that has formed as part of your identity. You can create that same belief when it comes to the way that you treat your body and the way that you prioritize your mental and emotional health as well. It's just first having the awareness of what you are not doing and what's the thought behind it. So if it's like, oh God, I really wish, I could be one of those workout people. Okay. So like, that's the thought, right? I really, really wish I could be. Let's just flip it and decide that we are. And then let's program our brains to believe that this is who we are and this is what we do. It takes a time, repetition, but I'm just really learning. I'm just really learning that you can flip a belief very quickly and believe something new in an instant. And it
Talk to
doesn't
me more
take.
about that. Talk to me more about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So here's a perfect example. Every time I would start a new diet, right? When I was going through my whole period of struggling with my weight, every time I started a new diet, I had the thought like, this is going to work. I can do this. Very, very clear. And I would be hyper focused. I would clean out my refrigerator. I would clean out my kitchen of everything that wasn't on that plan. I was determined like, this is the thing. This is going to work. And for the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that was my belief. But what happens is it wasn't an integrated belief. So I was able to flip that belief in that moment of like, oh, I'm going to start something new. But it wasn't an integrated belief because I didn't embody what I was doing. Subconsciously, there was a thought of like, well, girl, you know, you failed on these other things 8,000 other times. So there's a 55% chance that this one isn't going to work. And those thoughts were not addressed. When you address those thoughts as soon as they come up and flip them, like even though I failed 55% of my past diets, I am a healthy person. I love vegetables. I love to eat carrots or whatever, right? Like you tell yourself and then you can believe it. We've all heard the stories of, you know, people who are diagnosed with something like you're a smoker and you have lung cancer. And all of a sudden you just stop smoking and you've been smoking for 55 years.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Flip that switch very, very quickly.
So the place that seems to be key here is the awareness, right? Mm-hmm. What am I actually thinking? Change. It's like it's always being aware. And that's a habit in itself. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a perfect habit. It's just like start with a little bit of awareness and then build on it. And before you know it, you're always noticing your thoughts. And it's like this new internal dialogue. It's, oh my gosh, there's that thought again. Oh, I don't want that thought. Right?
100%. Yep. And I think for new coaches, the awareness comes when you sit down to write. It's just a process. You're writing, your brain slows down. You got to like take pen to paper, and it just allows you to process much slower what's happening in your brain. The more you do that, then, you know, like when you become old coaches like we are, we become very aware quickly of what we're thinking.
Yeah. And old coaches have these big, long stack of journals behind them.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Evidence of the times that we write and become aware of all these things.
The writing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jennifer, it feels like we have covered so many different things. Before we wrap it up, is there anything that you think needs to be said? Anything extra?
Yes. We talked about fear a little bit. I just want to say whatever you are afraid of, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever you're afraid of, it is okay.
I love that. That is great. All right. Now, as we wrap up, there's going to be people who listen to this episode and say, my gosh, that Jennifer Dent Brown, how do I find out more about her? Tell us how to find out more about you.
Well, you can find me at jenniferdent.com. That's my website, but I'm also on Instagram at Jennifer Dent Brown. You can find me, you can search for my podcast, Stop Dieting Forever, which is pretty darn popular.
Yeah. It sure is.
So lots of different ways to find me.
Oh, awesome. And I think you had a free gift that you were going to offer to people as well. Do you want to talk about that, or shall I just put it into the episode notes?
Yeah. So I have two things. You can join my email club if becoming healthy and that if that identity conversation resonated with you and you're no longer aligning yourself with being a dieter, but you don't know what to do next, then I say subscribe to my email list. It's called Forever Well Email Club. And I send out motivational tips and products that I like, different mindset things that you can think about. And I try to do actionable things like this is something you can learn and this is something you can start immediately. And I also have another freebie, which is called How to Lose Weight This Week Without a Diet. So you can opt into that as well, which is jenniferdent.com. This week is the link, but all of that's on my website.
Okay. And of course, I'll put it all in the episode notes as well. Really enjoyed the conversation. I'm so glad that we got a chance to do this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So that is the episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I would encourage you to check out Jennifer Dent's stuff and come and join me again next week. Have a great week. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be.